Helen Walker was 68 years old, a quiet, kind woman with soft hands and a tired back. She had lived with her son, Jason, and his wife, Amanda, for the past 4 years. Ever since her health started to slow down, she never asked for much. She cooked meals, folded laundry, and watched over their young daughter when they were at work. She thought she was helping. That evening, Helen was setting the dinner table, just like she always did. The smell of roast chicken filled the air. She had made Jason's favorite, the same recipe she used when he was a boy. Her hands trembled a little as she placed the last fork. She smiled to herself, thinking maybe Amanda would finally say thank you. But Amanda walked in with a different kind of plan. Amanda didn't take off her coat. She didn't look at the food. She looked Helen straight in the eye and said, "You need to pack your things. My parents are moving in tomorrow." Helen stood still. For a second, she thought she heard wrong. "I'm sorry," she asked, her voice shaking. Jason came in behind Amanda. He didn't say anything. He didn't even look at Helen. He just walked past her and went upstairs. "I don't understand," Helen said, her throat. "Where would I go?" Amanda crossed her arms. "That's not my problem." Helen turned to Jason, now standing on the stairs. "Jason," she whispered, hoping, praying he'd defend her. But Jason kept his eyes on the floor. "It's for the best, Mom. Amanda's parents need help too." That night, Helen sat alone in her small bedroom, holding a photo of Jason as a baby. His face used to light up when she came home from work. He used to call her his hero. She never missed one of his school plays. She worked 2 jobs so he could go to college. She gave up everything to raise him right. And now, she wasn't even worth a bed in his house. In the middle of the night, she heard Amanda laughing downstairs, talking on the phone. "Yes, finally. I told you. She's gone tomorrow. I can't wait." Helen stared at the ceiling, her chest heavy. This wasn't just about space. They wanted her out. Amanda had never liked her. She had always found small ways to push Helen aside, turning Jason against her little by little. She didn't sleep much. At dawn, she folded her clothes into a small suitcase. No one helped. No one stopped her. Her granddaughter was still asleep. Helen kissed her gently on the forehead and whispered, "Goodbye, baby." Downstairs, the house was silent. The dinner she made still sat untouched on the counter. She left the plate there. She couldn't bring herself to clean it up this time. Helen stepped outside with nothing but her bag, a worn-out coat, and a heart full of pain. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she wasn't welcome in the house she once called home. And as she walked away down the empty street, the morning sun rose behind her, but she didn't feel its warmth.
Evelyn didn't always feel unwanted. There was a time when her life was full of love, even though it was hard. She married her husband Frank when she was only 22. He was quiet, hard-working, and gentle. He loved jazz music and used to hum while fixing things around the house. They didn't have much money, but they had each other, and that was enough. When their son Jason was born, Evelyn felt like her world had found its purpose. She poured all her love into being a mother. They had a small apartment and a simple life. Frank worked as a mechanic, and Evelyn took care of the home. They weren't rich, but there was laughter, love, and peace. But when Jason was 9, everything changed. Frank started getting sick. He lost weight fast, had constant pain, and could barely eat. Doctors ran tests and gave them the news. It was cancer. Evelyn didn't understand all the medical terms, but she understood enough to know Frank didn't have much time. The illness moved quickly, and within 4 months Frank was gone. Evelyn didn't get a chance to grieve. She had a child to raise. She wiped her tears and went to work. She found a job as a cashier during the day and cleaned offices at night. Some days she worked 16 hours, came home and still managed to make dinner and help Jason with his homework. There were times she didn't eat, so Jason could have an extra sandwich at school. She sold her wedding ring and used the money to buy school supplies and clothes. She didn't tell anyone. She just kept going. Evelyn was there for every school event, every basketball game, every parent-teacher meeting. No matter how tired she was, she always showed up. She clapped the loudest at his graduation and cried in the back row. When Jason got into college, Evelyn felt like all her sacrifices were worth it. She took out a small loan and emptied what little savings she had to help pay for his tuition. She told Jason it was covered by scholarships. She didn't want him to worry. After college, Jason got a job in finance. He was making good money and seemed happy. Evelyn finally felt like she could breathe. Then he met Amanda. She was smart, beautiful, and always seemed very sure of herself. Amanda came from a wealthier family and worked in marketing. The first time Evelyn met her, she felt something cold beneath Amanda's smile. Amanda never said anything directly rude, but she had a way of making Evelyn feel small. "Jason told me you didn't finish college. That must have been tough," she said once, sipping wine at dinner. "Or, we'll have to fix your style. You look too serious." Jason laughed it off. Evelyn smiled and said nothing.
When they got married, Evelyn thought she would finally be part of a bigger family again, but Amanda barely included her. She wasn't asked to help plan the wedding, and she was given a seat at the very back of the ceremony. Evelyn smiled through it all. She told herself it didn't matter, as long as Jason was happy. Not long after the wedding, Jason and Amanda decided to buy a house. They didn't have enough for the down payment, so Jason called his mum. Without hesitation, Evelyn gave him $30,000 from her savings. It was money she'd quietly saved over many years. She didn't ask for a contract or a thank you. She told him, "It's your home now. Just take care of it." A few years later, Amanda had a baby girl, Lily. Evelyn was overjoyed. Amanda asked her to move in to help with the baby during the first few months. Evelyn didn't think twice. She sold her things, gave up her small apartment, and moved into their home with a suitcase and a heart full of hope. She wanted to be close to her granddaughter, to feel useful, to be part of the family. At first it was fine. Evelyn helped with the baby, cooked meals, and kept the house clean. She stayed quiet and respectful. But over time, things changed. Amanda started to act differently. She gave Evelyn rules on how to feed the baby, what to wear around the house, and how to speak when Amanda's friends were around. "Don't hold Lily so much. She'll get spoiled," she'd say. "Please eat in your room tonight. We're having people over. You don't need to help with dinner. I already ordered something." Evelyn felt like a stranger in the house she helped pay for. She tried to talk to Jason. She told him Amanda seemed unhappy with her. Jason sighed and said, "Mum, don't start. Amanda is stressed. Just give her space." That was it. No comfort, no support. Evelyn went back to being quiet. Then Amanda's parents started visiting more. First, it was for a weekend, then a week, then 2. Amanda began to talk about turning Evelyn's room into a guest suite. She didn't say it directly, but Evelyn knew what was coming. One night, she overheard Amanda on the phone. "She's still here. I thought she'd have left by now. I mean, she's not even paying rent." Evelyn cried herself to sleep that night. She remembered all the sacrifices she made, skipping meals, working long hours, giving up love and comfort to make sure Jason had a future. And now she was being treated like she was in the way. One evening, Evelyn heard them arguing. Amanda said, "It's either her or me. I want my parents here full time." Jason didn't yell or defend his mother. He just said nothing. Evelyn knew in that moment that she was no longer important. The next day, Amanda stood in the kitchen and told her plainly, "You need to pack your things. My parents are moving in tomorrow." Jason stood behind Amanda, silent, eyes on the floor. Evelyn looked at him and whispered, "Jason." He didn't respond. That night, Evelyn sat in her small room, holding a photo of Jason as a boy. She thought of all the birthdays she spent planning alone, all the nights she stayed up sewing his clothes, all the years she gave up so he could stand on his own. And now, she was being pushed out like garbage. She didn't fight. She didn't cry in front of them. She quietly packed her clothes, folded her blankets, and placed the photo in her bag. Before she left, she kissed Lily on the forehead and whispered, "I love you." The baby didn't wake up. Evelyn stepped out into the early morning cold with a single suitcase and nowhere to go. She didn't know where she would sleep that night, but she knew she was no longer welcome in the house she had once helped build. Even after all that pain, she still loved her son, but she finally understood something. Love wasn't always enough. Evelyn spent her first night sleeping on a bench at the edge of a quiet park. She used her coat as a blanket and her suitcase as a pillow. The ground was cold, and the wind made her bones ache. She barely slept. Her phone had no missed calls. Jason didn't call. Amanda didn't text. It was like she never existed. The next morning she walked for hours. She had no plan, just a little money in her purse and nowhere to go. She finally stopped at a public library to rest. The warmth inside made her tear up. She sat at a table in the corner and tried to think. She felt numb. How did her life end up like this? After a few days, she found a small shelter for women downtown. It wasn't fancy, but the staff was kind. One of the workers, a woman named Sharon, offered her a blanket and asked if she wanted something hot to drink. Evelyn nodded slowly. She was embarrassed to be there, but she was also tired. So tired. Sharon spoke to her gently. and asked if Evelyn wanted to talk. At first, Evelyn said no, but later that evening she quietly told Sharon her story, about how she helped raise her son alone, about how she gave him her savings to buy a house, about how his wife pushed her out. Sharon didn't say much, she just listened. But before walking away, she said something Evelyn didn't expect. "That's not just cruel, that's financial abuse." Evelyn sat with those words all night, financial abuse. She had never heard that term before, but it made something click inside her. She gave money, she gave time, she gave her heart, and now she had nothing. A few days later, Sharon introduced her to someone from a local legal clinic. Her name was Emily, a soft-spoken lawyer in her 30s. Evelyn didn't want to cause trouble, but she agreed to meet her. Emily listened carefully and then asked one question. "Do you have any proof you gave your son money for the house?" Evelyn thought hard. "I gave him a check," she said slowly. "I still have the receipt book. It's in a box I left at their house." Emily leaned forward. "If you can get a copy, we may be able to help. What they did wasn't just wrong, it might also be illegal." For the first time in weeks, Evelyn felt something stir in her chest. Not anger exactly, but something close to strength. The next day, Evelyn called Jason. He didn't answer. She called again. Still nothing. Finally, she texted him. "I need one thing, please. I left a box in the hallway closet. It has my old papers in it. I need it back." Jason replied 2 hours later. "Amanda already cleaned out your stuff. She didn't see anything like that." Evelyn's hands began to shake. That box had her old checkbook, her tax forms, her last copy of the money she gave. She called again. No answer. Later that night, one of the younger women at the shelter helped Evelyn check something online. Amanda had posted a photo on social media. It showed their newly renovated hallway closet. Her caption read, "Finally cleared out all the old junk. Feels so fresh and new." Evelyn stared at the screen. That's where her box had been. She felt sick to her stomach. That box wasn't junk. It held the last proof that she had mattered, that she had given, that she belonged. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat up, staring at the wall, her jaw tight. The next morning, Evelyn walked into the legal clinic with a firm voice and steady hands. "I want to fight," she said. "I don't know what I'll get out of it, but I want them to know they can't erase me." Evelyn stayed at the shelter for several weeks. It wasn't home, but it was safe. The room was small, with just a bed, a table, and a window, but at least it was quiet. She shared meals with other women who had stories like hers. Different details, but the same kind of pain. At first, she kept to herself. She felt embarrassed to be there. She felt ashamed even though she had done nothing wrong. One of the workers at the shelter, Linda, always made time to talk to her. Linda had short curly hair and wore colourful scarves. She was kind and never pushed. One afternoon, she sat beside Evelyn in the dining hall and said, "You gave your whole life to your son. That doesn't mean you don't deserve one now." Evelyn looked down at her hand. "I don't know how to start over," she said softly. "You don't have to do it alone," Linda replied. "Let me connect you with someone. Her name is Brooke. She's a lawyer. Just talk to her." A few days later, Evelyn met Brooke Adams at the legal clinic. Brooke was in her early 40s, smart, calm, and focused. She asked Evelyn to tell her everything. At first, Evelyn hesitated, but then the words started to come out. How she raised Jason after Frank died, how she worked 2 jobs, how she gave him her savings for the house, and how Amanda kicked her out like she was nothing. Brooke sat quietly, taking notes. When Evelyn said she gave Jason money for the down payment, Brooke raised her head. "Did you sign any documents?" she asked. Evelyn nodded slowly. "Jason gave me some papers. He said they were just for the bank. I didn't read them. I just signed where he told me." Brooke leaned forward. "Was your name ever added to the deed of the house?" Evelyn shook her head. "I don't think so." Brooke sighed. "That's a problem. But it's not the end. If you have proof you gave him the money, we might be able to help. Do you have any receipts? Bank statements?" Evelyn's heart dropped. She remembered where she kept those things, in a box. A small brown box with her old tax return, checkbook copies, and the receipt from when she transferred money to Jason. She had left it in the hallway closet of the house. It was the last thing she packed because she was afraid to lose it. Brooke looked at her. "We need that box, Evelyn. Without it, this will be hard." Evelyn nodded. "I'll try." She called Jason again. He didn't answer. She texted him. "I left a box with my papers in the hallway closet. Can I come pick it up?" A day passed. Then he replied, Amanda already cleaned everything out. If it was important, you should have taken it with you. Evelyn stared at the message for a long time. Her hands were shaking. That box was her only proof. Later that week, she heard from someone who lived near Jason's house. They told her Amanda had thrown away several old boxes the day after she left. Evelyn didn't want to believe it. She called Jason again. This time, he picked up. "Hi, Mom," he said, sounding tired. "Jason," Evelyn said, her voice low. "Did Amanda throw away my things?" There was a long pause. "She thought you weren't coming back," he said. "She didn't know it was important." "I asked you for one thing," Evelyn whispered. "One thing." Jason didn't say sorry. He just said, "I've been busy." Evelyn hung up without another word. That night she cried, but not like before. This time it was a slow, quiet cry, not just from sadness, but from something else. Disappointment so deep it felt like a hole in her chest. Over the next few days, Evelyn started attending group therapy at the shelter. At first, she just sat and listened. Other women spoke about being ignored, about giving everything to people who used them, about trying to be perfect and still getting pushed aside. Evelyn realized she wasn't alone. These women weren't weak. They were strong for surviving. One evening, when it was her turn to speak, Evelyn's voice shook as she said, "I gave everything to my son. I worked my whole life for him. I never thought I'd end up like this." The other women nodded. One of them reached out and held her hand. From that day on, Evelyn kept going to group. She started writing in a small notebook, just a little each day. Her memories, her pain, the things she never said out loud. She didn't know if it would help, but it felt like a start. Meanwhile, Brooke kept checking in. "We'll find another way," she said. "Even without the papers, there's a story here, and people need to hear it." Jason never called back. Amanda never said a word. Evelyn knew she had to stop waiting for them. Something inside her had changed. She wasn't ready to forgive, but she was ready to stand up. Evelyn stood outside the house she once helped pay for. She looked up at the windows, the familiar door, the porch where she had rocked Lily to sleep. It no longer felt like home. But today, she wasn't here to beg or cry. She wasn't here to ask for kindness. She was here for the truth. Brooke stood beside her, holding a folder. She gave Evelyn a small nod. Evelyn took a deep breath and knocked. Amanda opened the door. She froze when she saw Evelyn and Brooke. Her smile was tight. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Evelyn kept her voice steady. "We need to talk. Jason too. It's important." Amanda crossed her arms. "Now's not a good time." Brooke stepped forward. "It's not a request. We're here on legal business. You might want to hear this." Amanda looked back inside, then slowly opened the door wider. "Fine. Make it quick." Jason was sitting in the living room. When he saw Evelyn, he looked surprised, maybe even nervous. "Mom, what's going on?" Evelyn walked in slowly, eyes calm. She sat on the couch, across from them. Brooke stood next to her and opened the folder. "I'm here because I gave you money, Jason," Evelyn said. "Money that helped buy this house. I didn't ask for it back. I didn't ask for anything, but I was thrown out like trash, and then my things were destroyed." Jason rubbed his face. "Mom, we've been through this." "No," Brooke interrupted. "You haven't. What you did is legally serious. Evelyn has gathered receipts, copies of bank transfers, and statements from people who witnessed her giving you the money. That includes a former neighbor and your uncle, who remembers the conversation you had before the purchase." Amanda stood up fast. "This is insane. She gave that money as a gift. She didn't ask for it back." Brooke replied, calm and direct. "Even if it was a gift, the law allows her to claim equitable interest. That means she can sue for her fair share of the property's value." Amanda's voice got louder. "So she wants to take our house? Is that what this is about? You're just a bitter old woman who couldn't stay out of our life." Evelyn didn't flinch. "I want my dignity. I want the truth to matter." Amanda stepped closer, eyes wild. "You're a parasite. You act so helpless. But this is what you've been planning all along. You're nothing." Jason finally stood up. "Amanda, stop." She turned toward him. "What?" He looked at her, eyes filled with something new, anger, maybe guilt. "That's my mother, the woman who raised me alone, who gave me everything. You don't talk to her like that." Amanda's mouth dropped open. She stepped back, shocked. Evelyn didn't react to the sudden shift. She reached into her bag and pulled out a second envelope. She placed it on the coffee table and slid it toward Amanda. "What's that?" Amanda asked, still breathing heavily. Brooke answered. "It's a copy of a voice recording." Evelyn has a friend who helps clean houses. She happened to be nearby during one of Amanda's mother's visits. She recorded your mother bragging about how you were finally getting rid of the old woman and how this house was going to be yours, free and clear. Amanda's face turned pale. Brooke continued, "We've already submitted it as evidence in the filing, along with screenshots of public posts, texts Jason sent Evelyn, and witness statements. If this goes to court, it won't just be about money, it'll be about character. The damage to your reputation could go far beyond this neighborhood." Amanda sat down hard, saying nothing now. Jason looked at Evelyn. He looked like he wanted to say something, but the words didn't come. "I'm not here for revenge," Evelyn said, "but I won't be erased. I won't let you pretend I was never here." She stood up, nodded to Brooke, and turned to leave. As they stepped out into the afternoon light, Evelyn felt something lift from her chest. She didn't win everything today, but she won her voice back.
Evelyn won the case. The court agreed that she had a right to a share of the house's value. Her financial help had made it possible for Jason and Amanda to buy that home, and now the law saw it clearly. The judge awarded her a fair settlement. It wasn't millions, but it was enough for her to start over. She used the money to rent a small, cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The place wasn't big, but it had everything she needed: a warm kitchen, soft light through the windows, and peace. For the first time in a long while, she could close the door and feel safe. She didn't waste time feeling bitter. Instead, she started something new. She used her love of cooking to open a small meal service for elderly people in her area. She cooked simple, warm dishes: chicken stew, baked fish, rice and beans, and delivered them herself with a smile. People loved her food, but more than that, they loved her kindness. She made friends again. She reconnected with women from her old church, women she hadn't spoken to in years. They welcomed her back with open arms. She also began to volunteer at the Legal Aid Center, where she met women who had been through pain like hers. She helped them fill out forms, gave them advice, and sometimes just listened when they needed to cry. Her story gave others courage. One afternoon, a knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found Jason standing there. He looked different, tired, nervous. He held a paper bag in his hand. Inside was a small pie, her favorite kind. He looked at her and said, "Hi, Mum." Evelyn stepped aside and let him in. They sat at the small kitchen table, just the two of them. He looked down, then back up, eyes already full of tears. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything, for not protecting you, for staying quiet. I was scared. I let Amanda control everything, and I watched you suffer without stopping it. You didn't deserve any of it." Evelyn listened. Her hands stayed folded on the table. She didn't rush to hug him. She didn't brush away his guilt. She looked at him gently and said, "I still love you, Jason. That hasn't changed. But love doesn't mean returning to what broke me." Jason nodded slowly, his face full of shame and pain. "I understand," he whispered. They sat there for a while longer. She offered him tea. They drank quietly, not trying to fix the past, just sharing a little bit of the present. When he left, Evelyn didn't cry. She just stood by the window, watching the world outside move softly. Her heart wasn't heavy anymore. She had given all she could. Now she was giving to herself. Evelyn sat by her window with a warm cup of tea in her hands. The street outside was quiet. A few children rode their bikes along the sidewalk, and a neighbor walked their dog slowly past the garden. The sun was soft, casting a golden glow over the buildings and trees. Everything felt calm, still, safe. On the table beside her, there was an envelope. It had come in the mail that morning. The handwriting was shaky but careful. Evelyn opened it gently and pulled out the letter. It was from a woman she had met at the shelter. Her name was Samantha. The letter was short, but the words were full of meaning. "Dear Evelyn, I wanted to thank you. Your story gave me courage. I was scared, but after hearing what you went through and how you stood up for yourself, I found the strength to do the same. I'm taking steps to build a better life. Thank you for showing me it's possible. With love, Samantha." Evelyn felt her chest grow warm. Her eyes filled with tears, but they stayed in place. She smiled, softly but truly. She stood and walked over to the small shelf in her living room. There, beside a candle and a plant, stood a photo of her late husband, Frank.
He was smiling in the picture, standing in the sunlight, holding baby Jason in his arms. Evelyn placed the letter beside the photo, her fingers gently touching the frame. "I finally made it, Frank," she whispered. "I'm okay." She stayed there a moment, breathing in the quiet. Then she turned back to her chair, sat down, and picked up her tea. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Birds chirped softly in the distance, and for the first time in a long while, Evelyn felt completely at peace. Do you think Evelyn made the right choice by standing up for herself and walking away? Or should she have given Jason and Amanda another chance? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your opinion. And if you want more powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out.